Hello students, the topic that we have dedicated for this session is to try and have a basic understanding of the concept of assessee. As we are already familiar with the scheme of taxation that we have dealt in earlier classes, we know how important it is to have a clear idea of who an assessee is, since it is this assessee who forms the core of entire taxation. Having said that, the word assessee is found to be defined in the parent legislation, that is Income Tax Act 1961 itself. As a matter of fact, it is section 2 that provides us the definitions of basic concepts. It is this section that we fall back for definitions. Thereby, you are requested to skim through your Bare Act and find the exact clause as to where assessee is defined. The identified provision for assessee would be section 2 clause 7. If you carefully read through, you would be in a position to carefully identify and jot down 3 different classes of assessee within the main definition that's there. The 3 different classes would be ordinary assessee, representative or deemed assessee, and assessee in default. Now, understanding of these 3 classifications is important to understand the overall assessee definition within the IT framework. Our first focus now is to identify who would be an ordinary assessee. Taking section 2 clause 7 as root, if you go through say clause A of 2 clause 7, it lays down as to who ordinary assessee would be. This ordinary assessee in turn is divided into 3 categories. Category 1 includes assessments again in 3-fold form. Fold 1, every person would be an ordinary assessee for the purpose of assessment of his own income. Fold 2, for the assessment of what is called as fringe benefits. Fringe benefits includes those benefits that any person gets in addition to what the income already is. Now fold 3. Moving to fold 3, for the assessments of income of such other person. Now we will have to understand who this such other person is. A classic example of such other person would be transfer of income without the transfer of assets under the ambit of section 60 of Income Tax Act. When an income has solely been transferred only for the purposes of avoiding or evading tax, then though the income is received by such other person, it is to be assessed in the hands of one who transferred the income, that is the transferor. Now moving to category 2. Any person would be an ordinary assessee if he falls within the ambit of IT Act for the purposes of determining the loss that's been sustained by him. Say for example, we already know provisions of set off and carry forward. The losses that is yielded by the business can be carried forward and set off against the gains that's earned in the next financial year. This concept of set off and carry forward will be brought within the meaning only if it's given under category 2. Thereby, category 2 also gives you a kind of an assessee. Now moving to category 3. The one last situation where any person would fall in ordinary resident category is where there is a determined amount that is to be refunded to you by the income tax authorities. These are the 3 folds within category 1. That's classification 1 we have under ordinary assessee. The classification 2 that we move to is representative or deemed assessee. When you refer to section 160 and 161 of Income Tax Act, it says that any minor, lunatic and idiot who won't be a rational person under the Income Tax Act to assess his own income, then he would be represented either by their parents, guardians. The guardian may be a natural guardian or a court appointed guardian. In this case, the parent or the guardian that we are talking about would be deemed assessee or representative assessee. Finishing off with the 2 classifications that's already dealt, the last classification that we will be dealing is an assessee in default. It is defined that every person who does any default under any provisions of the Income Tax Act would be considered as an assessee in default. A very good example about assessee in default is given under section 191 of the Income Tax Act. Section 191, if you go through the section, it gives you 2 major understanding. One, if you are an employer, you will have to deduct tax at the source. Not only your duty ends with deducting source, it becomes a continuing duty. Thereby, in addition to deduct tax, you will have to deposit the same in the government account. These two procedures, these two duties that's there has to be fulfilled by the employer. Say for example, there would be a condition where the employer deducts tax and is not actually depositing it with the government, or the employer is not deducting tax, thereby is not able to deposit with the government. Here, even though he is not paying income tax per se, he has defaulted the provision of income tax, thereby he would be falling within the ambit of assessee in default. To sum up, assessee is divided into three categories: ordinary assessee, representative assessee and assessee in default. Ordinary assessee is again divided into three categories. The first category of ordinary assessee is divided into three categories, whereas the rest of the assessees have one arm each. Since we now have a clear understanding of who can be a person and who can be an assessee, it's time for us to do an activity based on the concepts that we learnt. Comment on the following statement: every assessee is a person, but every person need not be an assessee. Comment on this based on the concepts you understood from what you have learned so far and draw illustrations for the same. With this activity, we part ways till we catch up later in another session. Thank you.